They accused me of harassment. I've investigated warlords in Bosnia, corrupt mayors in Baltimore. But the scariest abuse of power I've ever seen was in a cul-de-sac in Georgia. By 3 retirees who ran our HOA like a cartel. My name's Marcus Griggs. Civil Rights Investigator. I've worked for state commissions, sat across from arms traffickers, interviewed victims of voter suppression. But none of that prepared me for the moment I moved into Oak Meadow Preserve. A sleepy, gated community outside Atlanta, 2-car garages, neat lawns, cookie-cutter HOA rules. It was supposed to be my quiet chapter. I just left a 5-year stint with the DOJ. I bought the house cash, fixed up the porch, even planted dogwoods. Then came the note. Handwritten. No envelope. Stuck under my windshield wiper. We've received complaints about your tone during the last board meeting. Consider this your first warning. I hadn't said anything at the board meeting. I'd only listened. The next week, a fine appeared in my mailbox. $125 for public intimidation. I stared at it, baffled. What does that even mean? I brought it to the property manager, Tina, with a friendly smile. Hey, I think there's been a mistake. She cut me off. Mr. Griggs, we take all complaints seriously. But I haven't done anything. She leaned in, lowered her voice. They're watching you. That's when I noticed the cameras. 4 new security cameras installed along my street. One pointed directly at my house. And at least twice, I caught my neighbor, Ellen from Lot 14, snapping photos of me through her blinds. Then, a neighbor I'd never even spoken to crossed the street. Hey, Marcus, she said, hesitating. Can I ask, did you really threaten Carol at the meeting? My jaw dropped. What? I haven't spoken to Carol. She blinked. She told everyone you said she should watch her back. I knew right then, this wasn't paranoia. It was a smear campaign. Emails circulated. Anonymous tips to the HOA tip line. A motion to ban intimidating gestures at board meetings, clearly aimed at me. Knowledge nugget number 1. Under most HOA bylaws, anonymous complaints cannot legally be used to issue fines. Ask to see the signed documentation. I filed a request under the HOA's disclosure policy. A week later, I got a manila envelope with the complaint logs. They were typed. No names. No dates. Just phrases like unsettling presence and raised voice. But I found something odd. The same phrasing appeared across multiple complaints, copy-pasted, word for word. I traced the metadata on the PDFs. All of them originated from a single device. Board Treasurer. Lot 6. Charles Winfrey. A retired insurance lawyer. Mild smile, neatly parted hair, always carried a clipboard. I'd seen his kind before. In courtrooms. Behind closed doors. He wasn't just another resident. He was the puppet master. I dug deeper. Started pulling property records, financial disclosures. And that's when the real rot surfaced. Oak Meadows HOA had quietly doubled its annual dues over 6 years. Not for roads. Not for landscaping. But for a special reserve fund that no one could explain. When I asked at the next board meeting, Charles said, "It's for emergencies." I asked what kind. He said, "That's classified." I laughed. He didn't. Then came the letter from the county. Certified mail. Apparently, my backyard fence violated an environmental setback. According to the HOA, my fence encroached on protected wetlands. I checked the original plot, nothing there. So I drove to the zoning office. There, buried in scanned archives, was an amended map. It had been updated 3 months ago. Signed off by none other than Charles Winfrey. Knowledge nugget number 2. HOAs can submit revised plat maps to counties, but they require unanimous board approval and public notice. Demand the vote records. There were no records. No vote. No notice. Just Charles, marking up the landlines with a ballpoint pen. I called a friend at the county's ethics office. Within a week, they opened an inquiry. That same night, someone spray-painted my garage. Liar. In red. Security cameras. Down for maintenance, said Tina. Of course. And then, they went nuclear. I received a formal cease and desist from the HOA's lawyer, claiming I was harassing and surveilling board members. They cited my public records requests as evidence. The letter ended with a threat. Any further actions may result in civil or criminal prosecution. Comment if you've ever had to fight your HOA just to breathe. Or tag a neighbor who's one board vote away from starting a coup. I wasn't going to roll over. I filed a whistleblower complaint. I wrote a 13-page dossier, included every fake complaint, every forged signature, every doctored plat map. I posted a redacted version to the Oak Meadow resident forum. Within hours, it exploded. Replies poured in. They fined me for hosting a Bible study. My daughter's wheelchair ramp was denied twice. Where is all the money going? Then came the knock. It was Jason, lot 17. A veteran, quiet guy. He handed me a flash drive. From the old treasurer, he said. Before they pushed her out. On it? Full financial ledgers. The reserve fund had been used to pay private investigators, legal retainers, and something labeled off-site consulting. That last one? A shell LLC. Owned by Charles's son. I called a reporter I trusted. Then I called the state AG's office. A week later, subpoenas dropped like hail. At the emergency board meeting, Charles sat stone-faced as the investigator read out charges. Fraud. Tampering. Unlawful surveillance. Ellen from Lot 14 tried to protest. Marcus has been a menace since he moved in. But the crowd turned. For once, they weren't looking at me. They were looking at them. Knowledge nugget number 3. HOAs can be dissolved by a supermajority vote if proven to act outside their fiduciary duty. Check your state laws. 3 months later, Charles was removed. Tina was fired. A new board was elected, Jason joined, so did a single mom from Lot 22. We used the leftover reserve fund to plant native trees along the creek. Kids play there now. Dogs run free. But a week after the final hearing, I received a package. No return address. Inside, a single item. A house key. Not mine. And a note. You only uncovered half of it. Next week, the city that tried to steal a solar farm, and the one janitor who stopped them.